We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns.
Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew. Welcome to Stock Talk. Today we're speaking with Dev Randhawa. Many of you will know him. We're going to be talking about uranium and Fission 3.0. There's a lot to talk about, but for those of you who don't know him, there's quite a bit, and he's quite well known in the space. And even going back a few years, Northern Miner magazine named him Person of the Year in 2013. They also awarded Dealmaker of the Year in 2013. Also won the Mining Journal Excellence Award in 2015, amongst other things. CEO of Fission Uranium. There's a big story there with this whole model, which is a project generator model that we're going to talk about as well, because it's key to this story and it's very important. But I wanted to set the stage too at the beginning, though, was talking about uranium and the shift in energy and why Fission 3.0 is necessary and what you're up to. So I know it's a lot to jump into, but it's all key. I mean, management, project, making money for investors, all these things are very key, and we want to make sure we cover all of them. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Obviously, when you make a fantastic discovery hole like our team has found, you wake up a lot to jump and can't wait for the day to begin. So it's and as Christmas, it's a good time of the year. People seem more kind to each other. So at the end of the day, I'm excited for our shareholders for being so faithful to us over the years, and those who were, the stock's up, over 400% over the discovery. So I'm very happy for them. It's a great Christmas.
Yes. Now, before we get into the details of the project, the whole, and what the excitement on this iteration, maybe walk us through why the world is turning. It's like we're getting a lot more retail news. There's a lot more acknowledgement and encouraged insides in the space of nuclear, and why Canada can play and should play like a pivotal role.
Well, if you look at, Canada prior to, even Russia invading, we've always were the dominant player for a long time, 1 or 2, and et cetera. And right now we're number 2. Kazakhstan's the number 1 producer. So, just like, I believe Canadian oil, Alberta oil should be, spread through Canada rather than buying it from Venezuela. That's me. I think we have there's a world energy crisis going on, and we can be a part of that solution where we can stand up to regimes that are evil, like Russia, what they're doing to people in Ukraine. And we can stand up yet find solutions, which would only help Canadians anyway. So I think Canada can be very helpful both in oil and uranium, and uranium, we're very fortunate to have the highest grades in the world. We have a really big leader in the industry with Cameco, Mr. Tim Gitzel leading it. I think they're a fantastic company and a fantastic group of people. The two things that I have seen in the uranium space, and these are all the pictures of all the reactors, the big change I've seen, we have now a Democratic Party in power, and they're pro-nuclear. Never had that before. Secondly, I think people have realized that much as we can dream and wish on a star, but, solar and wind aren't ready to take that, leadership that is, simply because economics. Look, there's too many people starving for food in India and China that really don't care about polar bears in Canada. They just don't. Maslow hierarchy of needs. Until you have food security, you don't worry about self-actualization and, et cetera. I have my own views on climate change. But what I do know is you can't move out of the house of fossil fuels, which generates 80% of our energy, and say overnight, we're going to go over here. You can dream it. Politicians promise it, and that's how they stay in power, by lying and say, oh yeah, we're going to get there. And then they can't. And now you got an energy crisis. We have an energy crisis because politicians lied to people and says solar and wind will do it. But they never take the first year of science, which says you have to have base load power, meaning that as long as humans' habit is to have the most of our power used between 4 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night, unless people are willing to, we change the whole structure of our lives where certain countries eat at 2 o'clock in the morning, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Until change, we need base load power. And that's where I think nuclear power has always been a part of that solution. I'm thankful finally that some greenies are saying, okay, nuclear power is the only base load power that's clean. There's no carbon footprint whatsoever. So I think that change has really happened. And that's why last year, Peter Groskopf, who I think is a genius, he took all that demand from fund managers and set up this physical trust called SPUT. And as he picked up, every time it traded above premium, he would sell into it and buy more physical. So, they bought 50, 60 million pounds last year. I can't recall. And that was very helpful. It lifted uranium from 30 to 60, now it's, more closer to 50. But there's been a dramatic change politically where nuclear power is not the bad boy people thought it was.
Yes. And it's amazing how much narrative around nuclear has been. And I couldn't agree more with the overall statements you've made. Is I would shake my head and think, okay, if we're really serious, why hadn't we started infrastructure 5 years ago, 6 years ago? What's going on? But at least we've getting some recognition. We've got that a plant nuclear in Ontario, a small modular reactor. I mean, it's a small step, but I mean, we would need a lot. I think China has 48 that are onboarding. That's what we need to see, is if we're making a dramatic impact and say that it is carbon you're worried about, and you're worried about emissions, there should be a fleet of modular reactors coming Absolutely. Down the pipeline.
Well, yeah, even you take the I call it California, the Germany of the United States, which is, I call it folly and silliness. Unfortunately, Germany leaders and the California leaders believe in unicorns, and so I think Newsom put out that on I can't remember the day, it was on Mondays, we're not going to sell after 2035 any gas-powered engines. And then on Wednesday, he said, those you have electric cars, please don't charge them this week. We don't have. So, and I think electric cars and hybrid are about 8% in total in there. So you would have to have, 12 times the amount of energy. And someone estimated California alone would have to build 25 reactors just for electricity if they were ever going to have electric cars. Just the cars.
Yes.
So anyways, I think it's silliness, some would say fraudulent talk by politicians to stay in power, to do anything to stay in power.
Yeah.
And the average guy is not like you, doesn't do his homework and goes, okay, where do we plug these cars in?
Yes.
There's no place. And in fact, in Canada, I know that if you people try to put in into their house, 2 outlets and stuff, they won't do it for you. They will not do it because they know they don't have enough power.
Yeah. Well, that's a big thing too, is, I mean, even just watching buildings go up here in Vancouver, it's expanding at a rapid rate. Why aren't there 40, 50 charging stations in these brand new buildings? There's not. Like, there's 3 or 4, maybe 5.
You know what? The bottom line is, not to sound like Nietzsche or anything, but people don't often change till there's a crisis, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They won't change. They get a slap across the face. They're like, oh, by the way, there's no power. You can't cook your food. What?
Yeah.
Then let's do that. So I don't necessarily think the shift to having more nuclear plants and stuff, see, if you look at countries that aren't run by popular votes and stuff like that, China, who we've done a lot of business with, they're fast tracking everything because they wake up and their cars have got filth on them in Beijing. So they don't go, oh, by the way, we have too much pollution. Let's get some clean energy. So you don't have to, but unfortunately human behavior is such that people get lulled. Everything is okay. And suddenly we need a crisis, whether it's addictions or it's whatever it is. And I believe we're addicted to stories. People love being lied to, and politicians know that.
Yes.
They believe in fantasies. So I think what's happened in Germany, Japan, Korea, California. It's just been a slap across the face going, you either go towards nuclear or you can't eat. You can't heat.
And energy is the wealth of any nation or any country. It comes, if you don't have energy, it doesn't matter. And if you've forgone it to another country or said, you have it and we'll rely on you. Well, we've seen exactly what happened with Germany in that case. And we'll get off the politics part, because it is thankful that, and once again, I agree, narrative can destroy science or facts very quickly. And we see it all the time. But luckily that narrative is shifting a bit and people coming around to understand energy a bit and uranium. And we are in a fantastic opportunity in Canada. I mean, we've got the Athabasca Basin, which of course you guys have so many projects in different iterations of the first company. So maybe actually, you know what, let's do that. Let's walk out and show how people that have been with you at the beginning, how they make money in a project generator model, because they have from day one, and then why Fission 3.0, because that'll kind of tell people how you work, how you've worked for your shareholders, and how that aligned.
Rick Rule says it always best: you're a contrarian or you're a victim, which means train yourself to go against the flow. So when people are running from projects, we require them. Every project we have in Fission 3.0 or F3, we call it, what we have in F3 is 100% of all our projects. They're required through science, looking for boulders, or we're looking for outcrops, right? All of them. So, but let's back it up a bit. Why are we called Fission 3.0? Because in 2007, I founded a company in my basement that had grown quite a bit. By 2007, we split it. We took the Canadian assets and started a company called Fission Energy. But literally 4 months earlier, we had in Strathmore brought in Sumitomo as a partner. So eventually those assets were sold to Energy Fuels. And then Fission Energy started its life. We got very lucky that one of our properties, Hathor, found a discovery literally 10 yards away. Korean Electric Power Company came in, funded it for us. We made a discovery, our first one in Canada. And we then grew it from Discovery Hill, grew a deposit, and then we eventually sold that side of the basin to Denison, Lucas Lundin. So they took that. So we hardly put any money into it, maybe $1 million or $2 million, and sold that for $128 million with all the stock and everything else to Denison. We took the other side of the basin and called that Fission Uranium. Okay, so Fission Uranium was completely focused on the West. But when we made, and I want to point out, there'd be no Next Gen, no Fission Uranium, none of these companies, if some people hadn't said, why don't we do things differently? And they said, why don't we fly the whole basin on the edges? We believe uranium was available on the edges, shallow, easy to explore. So we did an airborne with high resolution radiometrics looking for, and sure enough, we found boulders, followed the boulders, hit on triple R, and then based on that discovery, I know the guys in Next Gen were able to raise money and get on with their life. So it took brains, very unique people like Ross and Ray to think beyond it. So that became Fission Uranium. And then eventually we took the exploration assets and put them into Fission 3.0. That's where we are today, Fission 3. The bottom line is, had you owned a share of Strathmore Minerals back in 2007, you open your brokerage account today, you'd have a very strong Energy Fuels, Denison in Canada. Fission Uranium is a 700-800 million or whatever it's worth today. And us, who's made another discovery. So you can say it's Discovery 3.0. So, the reason we've done that is that we also have a slide, and I think we say management and shareholders must be aligned. And that's what we do. We always make sure that we do. We're in the Athabasca as a high grade. That was a slide. But yeah, bottom line is Fission 3.0 is the grandson of Fission Energy. And that came from Strathmore. I've always believed that I'm going to put my money with my shareholders. There's not a financing I don't take a part of, whatever. And we put our money where our mouth is, along with others. So Fission 3.0 today, as we can talk about soon, has made another, in my mind, massive world-class types discovery. Time will tell with assays how big and all that kind of stuff is. But this management team has done it 3 times. It's hard to find groups that made one discovery.
Yes.
Right. It's even insane to find 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To think about a third is the chances are astronomical. So somebody said either we were, lived very good lives before, or how do we get so lucky? Well, I don't think we got lucky. I think that, the key job of the CEO is to hire a team that's motivated to increase shareholder wealth. And that's what, Ross McElroy has done. I hired Ross, who then hired Ray. Ross is on our board. So we're still very much a team. Yes. And he's got his team, So, we've been very fortunate, like I said, and also we've been well funded over the years. And when you're well funded, it allows you when times people start to run, you buy their assets and they sell them at pennies. So they let them go, we acquire them. So that's been our strategy, to take a corporate approach to what Rick Rule would say, be a contrarian or a victim. So all our projects own 100%. And I told everybody, discoveries matter. Discoveries, stocks don't go up 10, 15%. They go up 10 times if you make a good decision. So that's what we've been able to do here. But 3 weeks ago, we've been able to make a massive discovery.
And we'll talk about the discovery in a minute here, because obviously it's key. But I wanted to highlight on just my own experience in calling people and different companies. Trying to raise money right now, for most people, is an absolute nightmare. If you call up someone and say, "Hey, I've got a private placement or something," they just laugh. They're like, "I'm not putting money in anything. I'm waiting on the sidelines. I might wait for however long." But you guys just raised $8 million. Closed it December 5th. Now that's a big deal, because it isn't like you raised 1.2 or 400,000. That's a big chunk. And that kind of, I guess, shows maybe it's all for past shareholders that are just happy with you guys, but it's just to get 8 million in this kind of environment. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal, but it's not a big deal when you look at the drill holes. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
And, this is a very, very significant drill hole. It wasn't easy. Trust me. I battled with bankers. Stock was 15. They want to give me 18. The problem they had was they wanted a warrant. And I wasn't with that. And their answer was, well, everybody gives a warrant with a flow through. And I said, not us. Look, you only got leverage negotiation to the level that you have money and you have options. Okay. We knew that we could do our whole winter program with the money we had. We didn't need to raise money. But when someone dangles 45% premium, you take it. And so this now gives us all the comfort that we can drill 20 more holes. But the job of CEO is to bring the right technical people in, raise the money, and give them the chance. And we did that as a team. We have a good marketing people. Jamie Jordan and Jeremy and Adam. We have good people that work their asses off when no one's looking.
Yes.
But the thing is, I always pound and say, guys, exploration companies based on one thing: people. If you don't have good people, it will mess up. And the second, the track record. It does boggle my mind how many uranium companies will joint venture with somebody who's never found a major deposit. It just blows my mind. So I'm thinking, was there, what magic do they have? Because we have got 16 projects and we think every one of them should be drilled. But we go through them. But it's like, there's so much, lack of a better word, it's just so much white noise out there.
Yeah.
So many guys, we got this. Really? I just shake my head when I see some of the things. But the problem is, in bull markets, it's easy to raise money. but in a bear market, it's tough. And that's why flow through people can demand a warrant, right?
Yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen the day that stock's 3 dead's gone. That stock is gone, and they will then keep the warrant. That's a common exercise.
Yeah.
But flow throughs get such a huge discount. To me, it's ridiculous what they demand. And I'm thankful that we had a good lead order from Sprott. Jason's a great guy. He didn't need a warrant. Great. And that's how we went. So it's a good firm. And so we're at Red Clouds. David Talbot is a superstar to me.
Yes.
Since way back when he loved the boulders before Fission Uranium, he says, you got to chase them. We did. So, when David Talbot talks, people should listen. He's not going to yell and scream. That's not his personality. But people should listen to Dave Talbot. So we're lucky to raise the money, but it wasn't just me. It was about having a good drill hole, David Talbot helping, and finally a fund manager saying, hey, I don't need a warrant. And bang, the deal got done.
Perfect. I mean, that's a great example of how you're adding value and fighting for the shareholder here as well. And with this, maybe kind of give us, and we can't go too forward looking, but with this drill hole, maybe you can give us a kind of sample from previous experiences with the earlier iterations. Does this match? Does it look kind of the same?
Now, if you've got the slide, there should be a slide comparing counts per second. It'll mention Aero with next gen, ISO, Hurricane, Triple R. There should be a slide on our thing, and I'm sorry I don't have it. This is now, if you look at it, it tells you depth, how wide it was, and more importantly, counts per second. The counts per second tells you more about grade, but you got to have a lot of it, obviously. So if you look at it, the highest you've seen in some of these in opening discovering holes were 15,000 counts per second. We had 65,000. I spoke to somebody on this list, and they said, Dev, that's at least 40% uranium. At least it could be our drill. See, most you remember that scintillometers all calibrated to each other, so ours might be different from next gens, and so you have to be careful a little bit there. But our own calibrator, we used to have up to numbers of 50%. So you've got a couple of meters of really high grade, and there's pictures on our website of the pitch blende. Numbers came out and you can physically see it. It smells like crap was the biology of it. Yeah. So we know it's the best start anybody has had. We now need assays. We need more drill holes to show us, hey, this is really a world-class discovery. So we have on that, we put another hole out 10 to 15 meters out, and it hit as well. It also actually had more counts per second, maybe not as wide, but the high pitch was there. And we're just completing the third hole now, our second confirmation hole, I would call it. Discovery hole's done. We got second confirmation hole coming, follow-up hole, you would call it, coming out hopefully this weekend. We'll get to the market. And we're going to do one more after that. And then we can shut it down for Christmas, or they'll name the deposit Grinch Dev. People go home. There aren't much. We sent it off to the lab already 2 weeks ago. So maybe next week, or very shortly thereafter, before Christmas, we'll have the assays from our first discovery hole, and that will be telling you everything you need to know. But we have money for 20 holes now, without touching our hard cash. So we're well funded. I think if you're playing football, we're starting on the 50-yard line. Yeah. We'll start on the goal line before. So we've got a big jump start. It'll be fascinating to see where this goes. But like I said, I'm very excited for our shareholders who are patient at 7.5 cents, 7 cents. Now looking at a stock that's 32, which hit an all new high yesterday, 33. So we're excited for them. I'm excited for, guys in London who financed at 21. They're water, and then with our new guys, the technical team. I'm proud for Ray. So I think it's gonna be a good Christmas. where we don't know what it means, but I can just tell you that it's a great start. The assays and more follow-up holes will tell us what it is. And then when we come back at Christmas, we'll see what happens.
I like that because there is urgency. So people think like, well, how long do I have to sit before I buy? Like, is it 3 months, 6 months? It's like, no. There's more news coming out very quickly. And even in chaotic markets, in sideways markets, and even if you think the economy is looking dreadful and everything's terrible, that doesn't mean money flocks to the real stories. Like it still does. Like you get winners in these markets, even when overall markets are a nightmare. So if you have great news, it's going to be reflected, and people will they'll hear about it a week later. So if they hear about it now and they're looking at it and they're keeping it on their register, this is, I think, a perfect time to be considering.
Yeah, keep in mind, uranium exploration is in some ways better. If you have gold or copper or nickel, it doesn't matter. You can't look at it and tell it means anything. In fact, you can actually screw with your head. I've done deals where you could see the copper, rubbing on the edges. When the assays came out, it was nothing.
Yeah.
One thing about uranium, if you have it high grade, the moment you run the scintillometer, first of all, when you lay it out, you can smell it right away. And my daughter Jasmine, remember she's young, and I said to her, we use a thing called a scintillometer that you can do a scintillometer. You can smell the high grade, she said. She laughed. And then she was the first one of all my high so-called genius team. She was the one of the first to tell you can smell it. I said, oh, okay. She goes, you don't need a scintillometer. She's hilarious. What comes, she's genius in her own way that way. Can think outside the box. And she said that. So it smelled, it looks dark black, pitch blend, and the numbers showed. So as soon as it comes out, boom, you can run it, so you know right away. You don't know because there's not a linear relationship between scintillometer and assays. What I do know is if you're over 65,000 counts per second, boom, you're in a whole new world. And the second hole has 65,000. So we got more holes coming, lots of news coming, and then we get the assays. So it's kind of a nice double bump you get in uranium exploration. You get a bit of a tease. Okay, you got something, and then bang, Christmas present open, then you got a better one. So that's one thing our experience has taught us.
I'll just throw it out there as well. I mean, it's Athabasca Basin. I mean, you guys are legends in the space. We could go over in detail how, again, and I'd love to, how you've made money as a project generator model. You've got 16 different projects, and like you said, you want to drill all of them. And that says a lot. That says a lot.
Well, they're all
because go ahead, please.
They're worthy because when Ray and Ross and the team come to you, they say, hey, look, and then when they acquire land, they don't ask me, they just do it. Okay. And I say, great. Because I know the rules we have in the group. You're looking for outcrops of uranium, okay, sticking out like Hardy Bay or a boulder. If you got boulders, outcrops, boom, grab it. Or in Canada, if you have exploration, and in order to keep that land, you have to do work and you have to file that work. So even if you walk away, the government has that work. So we continue to scour that information and find out which properties have been dropped but have potential, right? From our perspective. Because you got to remember, when you've had the ability to explore using geoscience, geology experts, geologists and geophysicists, we know what they're looking for. And there's another slide in there. It's called ticking the boxes. We don't drill any property till we've got proper information, because all uranium comes through, there it is. All uranium comes up through conductors. So you have to have a structure for these fluids to come in and bring the uranium up, right? But that's not enough. You have to write geochemistry. You have to have some bleaching. You have alteration. We look for all those things before we drill. So everybody that does a joint venture with us knows, hey, these guys have done all these steps. Doesn't mean you're going to find uranium. These are indicators there's uranium in the system. That's all these tick boxes mean, and that's why you got to have money to go in there and pinpoint it. For us, we knew we had all these features, an A1 conductor, but we found smoke. We would find little bits and pieces here. So we knew within this area there was a high grade somewhere. We didn't know. But now we've hit it. We know there's high grade there. The question is how big it'll be, which way does it grow? Our strategy going forward is to do these smaller step outs, 10, 15 meters, to understand where it's going. Because we don't have X-ray vision to show you where it goes. So we have to use drilling to find out where is it going. You remember Arrow is stacked, whereas the other ones like Triple R is spread out like, pancakes through like pearls on a necklace.
Yeah.
Those are two different models. So we have to figure out what this is. And once we understand it, then you can step out 50 meters, 100 meters or whatever. But you really have to count on geoscience. We have good geoscientists. They understand. The investment public need to know this team has not only made 2 discoveries before, but we've taken 2 discoveries into deposits. Okay. And that's key. A lot of people can find a discovery. They go, how do we grow this thing? Well, we've done it before. That's why when my team comes to me and says, okay, we got 3 more holes planned, up dip, down dip to the south, I said, go for it. I don't tell them, they are very smart people. They're driven by success and they want to be excellent. So I trust them completely when they say we're going to do that. So investors need to know not only was that a great discovery hole, you can compare it to whatever's been in the past, right? Now you got a team that can move it to deposits. And this is one of 16 projects. All other projects, we've worked very hard to, and we've been doing work on almost all of them. So even if we raise 8 million, we'll probably take 500,000 of it and start doing it. Looking for Arrow, flying it and ground geophysics, all these things, they are not costly.
Yeah.
Drilling can be 200,000 a hole, but for 2,000, you can get those properties. Remember, we have an incubator system, so we move them along the pipeline. Okay, early stage, mid stage, ready to drill. So we do work on the properties, and so it's all based on geology and science. Where we go next.
Excellent. Well, this was a real pleasure. Everyone, Fission 3.0. You can see where it can go from here. And like you said, I love that analogy. You're at the 50-yard line now. This isn't getting a punt return at the 1-yard line. We're far ahead. And you've got a sideways market for a lot of people, a generalist investor. This is a good sign of looking at a company that's in the green space, that's in the shift of energy. And it's just a matter of fact. If we're going to do any of this, nuclear is there. It has to be. There's no other solutions right now. And it's amazing to have it right in our backyard in a Canadian company, and it's a wonderful way for people to really rally behind the country for the assets we have, develop them properly, and make a little bit of money.
Absolutely. That's why. That's why. That's how we do it. We, I think all of us, if we're created, like we think you are in God's image or Buddha's, whatever you want to call it, we're made to be creative, and business people are creative. A lot of people who find solutions are creative, and our people are creative. We had some problems recently with our drilling at Engelholt. Well, let's just do vertical. Bang. I don't think us business folks get enough credit for being creative.
Yes. Well, this has been a real pleasure. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing any of the news that comes out, especially because there's some urgency in the next week or so before Christmas. But I think, as you put it, you guys are going to have a pretty nice Christmas.
Yeah, like I said, I'm super happy for our staff, technically Ray, our investors who gave us money at 21 cents and, watched the stock drop to 7 thanks to a crappy market. Yeah, I mean, I believe that if this markets can settle down, and if they stop, once this, cranking up the interest rates stops, people then take that money out of their banks and start investing again. But right now, people are still living in fear.
Yes. Well, wonderful. Thanks so much. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.